Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. In this week episode, it's gonna be the Green Factor Unplugged. So every month, we will have a session with Mia from Unplug, and we will have guests within the network where we talk about the metrics that is involved in their sustainable, not sustainable, ethical kind of metric. So without further ado, I'll bring Mia to the screen. Hi, Mia.
Hey.
We also have Victor. Mia and Victor at the same place. We are actually doing something quite interesting together, and later a little bit they will share about that. But before that, I think Mia, maybe you can just introduce a little bit about just about me, about Victor, and then also the metrics before we go deeper into our conversation today.
Sure. Okay. So I'm one of the co-founders for Unplug, which is a retail platform. We are one of the first retail platform in Malaysia. We're based in Bangsa Village 2 that focuses purely on sustainable and eco-conscious values within the retail. And our products range really from home decor, apparel, skincare, and accessories. So it's really a one-stop place where people can find eco-conscious alternatives and start their sustainable journey and start to consider sustainable values as well as part of their shopping habits. So the metrics that we work around, in which brands and products are curated around, we've got 8 metrics, and really they're just values that we want to push forth. Is eco-friendly materials, eco-friendly packaging, procurement, social impact, fair trade, zero waste innovation, preserving traditional skills, and local made. So we host over 50 brands and really building up the network and sort of sparking. We want to spark a movement within the retail field. And today, I'm actually in a cafe called Fittie Sense, which is just 5 minutes away from Bangsa Village 2, because we're here with Victor, who is someone that I'm collaborating with for our first exclusive pop-up dining event, which is an experiential event called Slow Dine. We launched this event last month, and really it's to tie in a dining experience with our retail products. And we're following the same ethos of working with local organic farms within Selangor. And Victor is a chef, so we're here at his cafe as we're preparing for this weekend's event. So, Victor, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Victor. I've been in F&B for about 10 years, and Fittie Sense has been in Bangsa just over 5 years. We focus mostly on healthy eating, or rather healthy options. We provide vegan food and low carb food, gluten free, um, post workout recovery, healthy fats. We're pork free as well, and we're located at a very relaxing first floor space. Um, what we've done at the beginning, since we've opened, we've always thought about what kind of food do we want to put in our bodies, right? Whether it's for wellness, whether it's to help us recover after a workout. Um, and we've always thought that, as part of wellness, part of eating healthy, we need to know what kind of food we put in our bodies. Um, so from the very beginning, our sourcing has been very careful. We try to use as much local ingredients as possible, mainly because cutting down on imports and transport and travel, we get fresher food, which naturally will be higher in nutrients. Um, we try to use, or rather, we have been using grass-fed beef, for example. Um, Again, it's about better animal husbandry as well. Fish and chicken, we use local free range. We seek out the suppliers locally. I think at the moment, about 70% of our menu is locally sourced. Of course, we would like to go 100%, but but there are always expectations from customers within this segment who may want, different kind of options like Norwegian salmon or Australian beef. But I think we have done quite well to find a balance for our concept. And we do also, when it comes to vegetables, our menu has a very, very big vegan and vegetarian section as well. So we focus on wellness for ourselves, but we always take the view of, a better planet, a healthier planet along the way.
Hmm. Understand. So right now, I think my first question will be, okay, we all want to eat healthy. We all know that it's important, and but there are a lot of limitation and a lot of things that makes us unable to consume these kind of things that are supposed to be more sustainable, more nourishing, and better for our body. So, what are some of the issues that you think contributes to that, and how do you actually, with what you do, solve those kind of problems?
Um, I think when we first started looking at the Malaysian market and eating healthier, I think we were looking at the majority of people. Um, Wellness from a dietary perspective is not really high on the priority. We find. We understood that when we first started, it would be very niche, um, which is why we opened in Bangsa, an area that's a little bit more cosmopolitan. People are more globally aware as well, more health conscious. We do have a lot of yoga studios and wellness studios around here, and we serve a lot of customers within this area and also out unto KL Central, Sri Hatamas, Momkera, Damansara. Those are our main areas. So we understood our customer base when we first started. But I think if you're looking at something a bit more general, a lot of education is still required, a lot of demos, I feel, introducing people to better ingredients, making better choices. Um, but to do that, it's it's difficult to tell people what to eat, but it's easier to show them and maybe guide them. But it takes a bit of awareness, it takes work, but it also requires the desire from the consumer point of view. If they wish to eat healthier, if they want to eat better and pick better ingredients. Through the 5 years that we've been here, and also through the slow down process that we've been doing with Unplug, we ourselves have learned a lot about local ingredients as well, about what's available, how things are grown in certain land, whether it's flat land, along the hills, on the cliff, on the mountain. Um, we get a lot of different kind of crops, and we do have certain seasons as well, eating within the seasons. I think one thing that a lot of us in Malaysia think, having sunshine all year round, we don't really have the four seasons of other countries, but we do have fruit and vegetable seasons of their own, especially the native plants. So it has been very interesting, and but to try to get people to understand about eating healthier, it comes with an interest of wanting to know what our land can produce, what's optimum to eat when throughout the year, and that includes engaging with suppliers, with even if it's on market level, talk to the market suppliers, the people who sell you the fruits and vegetables. They will have the knowledge to tell you what's at the best as well. Um, so it's a desire to find out more. It's an interest to know what you're eating, what you're putting into your body.
Understand. Yeah. So before we go into the detail, one more thing that I think we want to clarify or add on is on the slow food as being sustainable, and how these kind of things, how the way we operate or should be operating is moving towards sustainability. So I think Mia, maybe a little bit, you can start the session and then maybe touch on those elements as well.
Sure. Yeah, this is interesting to have this follow up talk this month because last month we were talking about slow fashion with House of Rami. Today it's slow food. and hopefully we can all start living more of a slow lifestyle. And so, yeah, I think what Victor had just mentioned earlier, I think the general principles behind that and the idea behind that is exactly what entails having a sustainable approach to anything, really, not just food. But that's also what we do when we look at products within retail. No matter the category, we want to spark a curiosity to know more of how it's made, where it comes from, and what are the impacts. Because in anything that we do, everything is affected. So today, I just wanted to get a little bit more about your story, your personal story, and then your journey moving towards sustainability and our collaboration with Slowdine. So how did you get into food?
Um, I got into food purely because I really like eating. And I think when it comes to enjoying food, there will always be a side of you that wants to maybe try to experiment and recreate some of the stuff that you've eaten in the past. But really, my food journey started more than 10 years ago. Because previously I was working and living abroad. And when I first came back, I just wanted to recreate all the food that I've missed eating, which is how my first cafe in Plaza Damas called Tray Cafe came about. We did a lot of sort of British classic foods, Sunday rolls, cakes, sandwiches, and then it just grew from there. And throughout the years, I've started to eat healthier, be a bit more conscious and aware of what I'm eating, and I started cooking a slightly different style of food. Exploring local ingredients, especially when you come back from abroad and you're so used to ingredients there, and you try to seek out the imported ones, and then slowly you realize that there are better alternatives, fresher alternatives here. And if I was able to enjoy local ingredients from a different country, why not apply that same ethos here and enjoy the local ingredients we have in Malaysia? So that's when we started looking at what we can use, um, and started to eat a little bit cleaner. I was looking after myself, my health, my wellness better. And then that's how Fittie Sense came about 5 years after I opened Tray. So Fittie Sense coming up to about 5.5 years now. Still going strong, managed to survive the pandemic, thankfully, and still here to offer people their healthy options, dietary requirements. We don't try to tell people what to eat, what's healthy, because everybody have different requirements. What they think is healthy for them is a very, very wide spectrum, right? So what we do in the matter is we offer people the choices, whether you want to eat meat-free, vegan food. Some people eat it because some people are on the diet because they believe that not eating meat is a better strategy for a better planet. Um, and for those who do want to eat meat, we give them better choices like wild fish, wild local fish. Most of our seafood comes in from Kuala Selangor and some further up from near Penang. Um, and chicken as well. We source a local free range chicken from Ipoh, as well as the kampung eggs from them. So that's how it has been a process. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. A lot of learning, a lot of trying, a lot of experimenting. So that's how the food journey started, and how it went towards sustainability. It's really thinking about, um, instead of just simply choosing ingredients, and instead of just buying mindlessly, we just try to be a little bit more thoughtful, do a little bit more research, finding where things are coming from. Provenance of ingredients very important when it comes to slow down. And if possible, if you can meet some of the farmers, which of course in our business we do have the time to do that, we try to get a bit more information, and where we can, we try to then pass that information on to our consumers, so that they too will know what they're eating. And generally, we find people do appreciate that, which is nice to see. Um, so I think throughout the years, where we have come to now, where we are being a little bit more eco-minded, a bit more conscious about our eating habits, it seems like the right time to do something like the Slow Dine event with Unplug, um, which we have known each other for maybe since before the pandemic, I think. Because I've been going to the shop in Bangsa Village quite often, so I do get a lot of.
He's a loyal customer.
So I do get some stuff from them. So we got talking about what they were doing, and they are very strong on the retail side, and I really really enjoy what they have. I really appreciate all the steps and all the metrics that they go through to source their products. um, and it was just a natural discussion to think about, what's next, what can we do together. And so with Slowdine, we wanted to take Unplugs, I guess, concepts and eco-mindedness and apply that to food and see how it would translate to a dining experience. So the whole idea with the slow dine, slow living, it's a bit of an antidote to fast living. It's a chance to um, take your time, especially from our end, get to know the ingredients, get to know the suppliers, and also get to know certain regions of Malaysia and the kind of heritage cuisine that's being produced there. Trying to learn certain recipes, talk to people about traditions and heritage, where some of these ingredients come from, why do they use it in certain areas, what are the specialties in certain regions, is it affected by culture, is it because of trade from um, previous generations. So there are a lot of stories to be told, especially even just here in Peninsular Malaysia, right? So we are sort of slowly starting that process. And with Slow Dine, it goes beyond just the eco-friendly ingredients. It goes beyond just the organic farming as well. But we also try to learn and study a little bit more about the culture and the heritage behind some of the dishes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite an interesting journey for me as well because I know nothing about food. I love eating. So he's like the to go to person, and it's been a really enjoyable process because we have been collaborating again with our network. So I think one of the episodes we've done, we've interviewed Just Life. They have an organic grocery store and they've been around for over 30 years. They've actually been playing a role within our research and development. So they've introduced this to organic farms. One of the organic farms that we partnered up with is GK Farm. And we actually went there to visit and to hear about how their process is. And that was really interesting. And also bringing in the retail experience to this event. We're also showcasing homewares as part of our tablescape. It's all sourced by brands that we carry. So Dapo's trays are very prominent in this event. All of the dishes are served in Dapo tray. We've got our copperware, Mooney plant dye, table textile. So it's a full experience, and each item from the food to the homewares have a story to tell. So it's a very interesting project to work on.
I think like I want to interject a little bit in terms of the stories because you talk about some of the stories because this is one of the things that I have been trying to do as well, like finding about our culture and history and the stories behind it, and try to put it in a way that it's not modernized but easier to grasp for the current generation. So, what are some of the stories that you can maybe share a little bit in terms of the food and the history behind it?
I think for the stories, it's a really important but also a very fun part of the experience. I think like if you take the example of what you guys are doing with food, and you look at heritage, culture, and stories, and you visit some of the states and some of the producers, you may find certain motifs, certain design that relates to them, which has its own meaning. Similar with food, one example that we looked at was this dish called botok botok ikan. Um, and I think the closest way to describe it is a bit like a deconstructed otak otak, where you do not mix the spices or the rempah with the fish and mash it together, and then you either bake it or you steam it, or you can even grill it. But this dish originally, I believe, came from the Java region of Indonesia, and through trade with Malaysia, the ideas of the spices and the herbs, when it arrived here, it gets adapted sometimes based on the ingredients that you have. So, like over here, it's quite common to use things like pucuk kaduk and even papaya leaf to wrap the fish. So it's like a banana leaf parcel with fish in it, lots of herbs, and then you have the rempah or the spice paste that's on top. It's got things like kunyit and galangal, a little bit of chili, lemongrass. So we cook it down, we slap it on with the fish, wrap it, and steam it. And it has been a really, really popular dish. But what I really enjoy about this dish is how it has come through trade from Indonesia, and then it gets adapted over here in Malaysia. It's a more common dish in Pahang and Johor. And from it, it branched out to some similar dishes such as otak otak or fish paste, where um, we discovered that as a variation, people would mix the fish together with the rempah. Maybe at some point in time, in certain communities, they didn't have enough fish to use, or maybe the fish was not as a good quality, and that was one way of hiding it and still produce a dish out of it. So it's discovering things like that was really, really fun and enjoyable as part of the process as well. And we do find that in terms of Malay cuisine, it has been heavily influenced through trade from Indonesia, not just the Minangkabau over to Negeri Sembilan food, but other areas of Indonesia. And of course, um, before being colonized and before Islam came, um, we had a lot of other influences from India and from Thailand and the north as well. So all these different flavors and ingredients and thought process about how flavors come about, you'll find that over the years here, if you trace it back, if you break down dishes and trace it back, you probably can find elements of it coming from around the Southeast Asia region. That's, I believe, what makes the cuisine here really, really interesting. And also, we have further plans. I think after this event, we'll look at other concepts as well. But one that we're thinking about would be probably something along the lines of Peranakan food. So, looking at where we are at the moment and how the food progressed through trade and through, the migration of the Chinese population coming down here, mingling with the local population, and the kind of interesting food that's produced out of that. Um, so I think if you look at food anthropology as a journey, what we are on now, we are sort of on a little food journey of our own as well.
It's like when I'm hearing all these things, I'm like salivating, and like at the same time, it's like history, right? Yeah, like there's so much like depth to just one dish. So that's why I'm intrigued to know more. But I think that one we can set for a different kind of session. I think Mia, maybe we can continue more about the slow food and what you guys we are trying to do with CC Pen as well.
Sure. So there are some struggles in terms of um, you know um, going sustainable in any businesses. So F&B is a definitely new area. We've been talking a lot about challenges within slow fashion. What has been some of the key challenges you face in producing slow food menu?
So I think the main challenge we found or we've discovered through this process was really the sourcing of ingredients. When we want to work with local farmers and farm, um, we can't expect to go to them and say, hey, this is our menu, these are all the ingredients we need. Can we get them in 2 weeks' time? Um, Mainly because, without the sort of mass production, without the use of greenhouse and modern technology of um, producing vegetables and fruits, we are really at the mercy of the land, the climate, the weather. So some days you may get some ingredients, some days you may not. So I think from a business point of view, the main challenge would be consistency in supply. Not so much the consistency in quality. The quality is really good, really good. If you've ever managed to go to a farm and you know get fresh leaves or herbs or even chili off the store, it's miles apart from getting something from a supermarket that's been sat in the fridge for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Even I myself was quite surprised by the difference in quality. Of course, the other thing is the pricing. You won't be able to pay even supermarket price for some of these farm ingredients, especially the organic ones, because of the amount of work that goes into producing these fruits and vegetables and herbs. For example, on GK Farm, they produce their own compost, which is quite common in most organic farms. But what they do is they use that and they spend time to use the compost to activate the land rather than just fertilizing the land before they even plant the seeds into it. And so all this process, which really it for us, we see it as not rushing it, working with the land to see what they can produce, finding ways of improving it naturally, not artificially, all fits into the whole concept of our slow down when we look at the supply chain and not just the food on the table. But of course, we have to understand that consistency in the supply of ingredients is the main challenge. So, if we were to think of doing something permanent, it's going to be very hard to have a permanent menu. So instead, we'll have to work very closely with the suppliers, with the farmers, build really strong relationships with them, so that they can send us their best ingredients for us to work with. I think the whole process of doing this project is very different from doing a very commercial kind of F&B project, because you really have to be quick to come up with new dishes or work with what you can get. I think that's the main challenge, and that's certainly something that we're going to bear in mind when we work on future slow down pop-up menus. Maybe we'll look at what's available. So I think that has been the main challenge, and the supply and the cost involved in it. It's cost of ingredients is definitely a lot higher than any of my cafes that we use. So I guess that's a knowledge and information that we have to translate over to the customer as well. Like, why are these things more expensive? There's a reason for it. This is how it's grown. This is how it's produced. But this is the quality that you get.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like, again, with anything organic, whether it's skincare or just items, food, everyone's complaining about why it's so expensive. But you can hear now part of the process and the work that goes into it and the time factor. But in the end of the day, it's healthier for us and it's healthier for the environment. So I think it's just such a worthy investment to look at, and yeah, it's where do you put your values, right?
And I think from a F&B point of view, doing a project like this, we'll also have to look at what kind of experience and value we can give to the customer for this sort of, cost and pricing.
Yeah.
And one of my strategies will be like, okay, if you're looking at local food, heritage recipes, Malay food, or even Nyonya food, we'll probably try to explore recipes that are not so common, rather than just putting a rendang or masak merah on the menu, which you can get which are quite widely available in KL. So we'll probably look at other states and look at regional specialities, and maybe bring that experience here to the KL folks when we're doing this project. And I think that will give a slightly different experience, something new to discover, which I think is what people enjoyed and appreciated at the last Slowdown event last month, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Just to add to that, this month's Slowdown is actually happening Friday and Saturday. We do have a few seats left, very limited seats left. So do get in touch, DM either of our IGs to book your table. We hope to have this every other month as well, towards the end of the month. So we'll definitely be announcing it on our social media, or you can subscribe and get an email notification, because it's a closed event and it's just open for bookings.
And we are hosting it over at my place at Fittie Sense. It's not a big cafe. We have about 14 tables in total, so it's not a huge cafe. But as a pop up event, it's very intimate. It's been very nice. The thing with
Yeah.
the different kind of tablescape that we're doing for this event, using products and vendors from Unplugged. It has a totally different feel, and I think it was it has been really beautiful, and we're looking forward to the one tomorrow and this coming Saturday as well.
Hmm. I think like what we have done as well. We did one a community dining event before at the factory, where we have a chef that comes and prepare for group a number of people, and I think these kind of things are starting to be more and more prominent because people like the experience that like very limited, because you don't know it's gonna be like forever or what. So it's very limited. It's very intimate. So you get to discuss things, share stories, and those kind of things. So if you guys, Mia, is there anything else to need before we wrap up?
No, I mean, just to tie it back, this event and this collaboration is actually a tribute to the theme of local made. So everything, the brand homewares that we work with are all local brands. For from the menu to the sourcing, it's a celebration of all things local.
Awesome, awesome. So, guys, we are at the end of the show. Thank you, Mia, for co-hosting, and Vic for sharing your story. Um, we 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 would like to know more about, if you guys want to know more about this, you can contact them. You can go to their IG and my at Fittie Sense, and also for the products and other information, you can go to Shop Unplug. They also have all the information on the website as well. Thank you, our guest today, for sharing your story. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for spending your time. If you like this episode, please share it. To continue learning, subscribe to our YouTube page. For content and updates, follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. See you next week, and as always, have a green week ahead. Bye bye, guys.